Rarely has there been a comedian as successful as Jerry Seinfeld. You have to give it to the guy. He's almost a billionaire. And he attained most of his success writing and starring on a TV show about nothing. Seinfeld was born in Brooklyn, New York, April 29, 1954. He got his first taste of comedy from his father, Kalman Seinfeld, who collected and told jokes he had heard while serving in the military during World War II. It was while he was attending college at the State University of New York at Oswego that Seinfeld realized he wanted to pursue a career as a comedian. Jerry made his stand-up debut at an open mic in 1976. A few years later, he appeared on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson in 1981. In 1987, he starred in his own TV special and subsequently got to work developing the sitcom Seinfeld for NBC with the help of his friend and fellow comedian Larry David. Seinfeld ran for 9 seasons and was one of the highest-rated series in the U.S. during its tenure. Seinfeld is still aired in syndication, seemingly on an endless loop all across the world. After Seinfeld, he helped create the reality show The Marriage Ref. After that tanked, he wrote and directed the animated film B-Movie and developed the Netflix series Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, which he also hosted. In October, he published his new book, Is This Anything?, which details the Long Islander's path to success through a series of one-liners and humorous musings that reflect his signature New York City-centric stand-up style to a T. But really, how the heck did Jerry Seinfeld go from showing up at open mic nights to being one of the most celebrated and highest-paid comedians in history? And what's up with his latest plunge into the world of writing? He's obviously not hurting for money, so his latest book must be a labor of love. There's so much about Jerry Seinfeld's life worth taking a look at. He started at the bottom. According to Seinfeld, his first gig was when he was just 21 years old. He recalls his 5-minute set went really poorly, but he didn't let that stop him from pursuing his passion. He just needed to jump in and start doing stand-up, even if he had a few failures and setbacks in the beginning. He wasn't in it for the money or the fame. His comedy was his calling, and he wouldn't let anything hold him back from achieving his goals. In 1976, he had a rather successful set at an open mic night that ended up getting the attention of HBO. They invited him to appear on a comedy special starring the legendary Rodney Dangerfield, and from there, he kept impressing the right people. Seinfeld is a cunning man. He used the connections he was making to quickly climb the ladder. He turned down Mystery Science Theater 3000. Seinfeld was actually first on the list of potential hosts of Mystery Science Theater, but he turned down the opportunity to roast awful B-movies with Tom Servo and Crow T. Robot because he was focused on developing his own show at the time. Decades later, Seinfeld would make an appearance on the show when it was rebooted in 2017. How Jerry Met Larry David. Jerry first met Larry David in 1975, before he even realized comedy was his life's dream. David was already an active stand-up comedian at the time, and Jerry made his acquaintance when he found him leaning on his car outside of a New York improv club chatting it up with another comic. Seinfeld wouldn't formally get to know Larry David for another 3 years, but when they did, they immediately hit it off. The fact that both comedians were, quote, obsessed with the smallest possible issues, as Jerry puts it, is how they bonded. One of Jerry's career highlights was meeting the 42nd president. Seinfeld once told an interviewer that one of the highest points of his career was when he got a chance to visit the White House and meet then-President Bill Clinton. The two chatted it up for over 2 hours. We can only imagine most of that time consisted of Clinton laughing at Seinfeld's jokes. Jerry Seinfeld is obsessed with white sneakers. A normal person might own 1 or 2 pairs of white sneakers, if they're into that kind of thing, but Jerry's love for them far exceeds anything that could be called normal. Reportedly, Jerry owns over 500 pairs of white shoes. He was once asked what it was about white kicks he was so enamored of. He explained that 2 of his biggest fashion icons were New York Jet Joe Namath and Bill Cosby, and that their love for them is what got him hooked. The Marriage Ref. In 2010, Seinfeld produced a reality TV series called The Marriage Ref. The show was hosted by comedian Tom Papa and brought in guest celebrities to help struggling married couples try to reconcile some of their differences. The show never really caught on and was eventually canceled after the second season. the Puffy Shirt. Seinfeld fans are sure to remember Jerry's infamous Puffy Shirt. In 2004, he donated the questionable fashion choice to the National Museum of American History. While attending the event, he gave a speech where he humorously stated it was probably the most embarrassing day of his life. Poor Jerry. Quick side note, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to our channel. And keep watching to find out who Jerry Seinfeld's best friend is. He's actually written 3 books. Jerry's first book, Sign Language, was published in 1993. The book is a collection of jokes about dating, travel, finances, sports, childhood, and a whole bunch of other poignant topics. In 2002, Seinfeld published a children's book called Halloween. It's a collection of his own personal childhood memories. In the book, he details what a Halloween celebration was like from his point of view as a kid. Throughout the tale, Jerry makes use of the same variety of observational comedy he's become synonymous with. He's given up acting to return to stand-up. After 2007's B movie, Jerry retired from acting. Sure, he might appear in a TV series from time to time, but he almost always cameos as himself. He decided to exit the acting game so he could concentrate all of his efforts into his stand-up career. According to him, the world of comedy is more alluring than acting because it's meritocratic. If someone's not funny, people aren't going to show up to see their show. You can't fake it until you make it, as some do in Hollywood. Jerry's friendship with George Wallace. One of Seinfeld's best buddies is comedian George Wallace. Before Jerry made it, the two lived together for many years. Jerry was always a fan of observational comedy, while Wallace favored improv. For Wallace's first stand-up gig, he put his improvisational skills to the test by showing up on stage dressed as a reverend. Other than the costume choice, he had no other material prepared. Lo and behold, Wallace nailed it and had the audience in tears by the end of his set. When Seinfeld got married to author Jessica Sklar in 1999, Wallace served as his best man. Seinfeld's spiritual and religious views. Jerry grew up in a very Jewish family. He even traveled to Israel to volunteer at a collective agricultural community known as a kibbutz when he was 16. But it appears his interest in Judaism started to wane once he reached adulthood. In the early 90s, he dabbled in Scientology. He never actually joined the organization, but he was pretty interested in it. Maybe he dodged a bullet there. In 2012, he expressed he'd been practicing transcendental meditation for 40 years. Seinfeld has called the spiritual practice the greatest companion technique he's ever come across and has vocally touted its ability to treat post-traumatic stress disorder. He's also called it the greatest life tool he's ever found. He got fired from his first role. In 1980, Seinfeld landed the minor role of Frankie on ABC's Benson. Frankie was a young male delivery boy at an office building who annoyed the heck out of his co-workers by subjecting them to his unsolicited comedy routines. The writers of the show weren't feeling his character and decided to nix him from the script without letting him know. He didn't find out he'd been fired until he showed up to do a read-through, and to his befuddlement, he didn't get a script. Tough break, Jerry, but at least you didn't let it get you down. Seinfeld wasn't pitched as a show about nothing. When Larry David and Jerry pitched their idea for Seinfeld in 1988, they referred to it as a show about a comedian gathering material for his stand-up routine by drawing upon the happenings of his personal life. The notion that it was a show about nothing didn't come until much later, when the joke was made in the show itself. Jerry the therapist? When you're famous, you're always going to have some haters. That's just the way it is. That being said, Jerry's method of putting his critics in their place is pretty astounding. Whenever a heckler yells out something rude or obnoxious, he doesn't berate them or humiliate them. Instead, he replies to their insults as if he was a therapist addressing a client. Not only does this approach throw off his ridiculers who can't seem to figure out how to respond to his faux sympathy, but it also draws laughter from the audience, which last time we checked is kind of the whole point of being a comedian. Who knows what's on the horizon for Jerry Seinfeld? Netflix recently released his first original stand-up special in 22 years, titled 23 Hours to Kill, which actually earned him a Grammy nod. And with the publication of his book, it's clear Seinfeld hasn't run out of steam. We'd love to hear from you. What's your favorite Seinfeld episode? Our favorite is the opposite, but the contest is a close runner-up. Drop your favorite episode in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Tap the bell icon to turn on notifications so you can keep up with all our latest content.